the start of the story. We have a lot to explore with these younger creators, and the average age of an Indian creator is a lot younger than the average age of an American or a European creator. Most of us are like 18 to 23, and that's the sort of lifetime value of that creator is really high, right? So if someone is investing in India or looking at investing in India from the creator economy standpoint, I would say infrastructure layer is still where I would put my money in before I put it into creators, because that robustness doesn't exist yet. And once that does, I think creators turning into entrepreneurs will be the logical sort of next step.
Antoine, when we speak about the global economic downturn that we saw, to some extent we saw the West world, if you want to call it Europe plus the US, having, as we said, higher interest rates, inflation, more of a downturn. But at the same time, we saw this region where we're at, the GCC, still booming. So compared to the rest of the world, this was still booming, investments were flowing in. How do you assess this region versus the US when it comes to the investments in the creator economy over the last year or two?
So, we're deep AI investors. So for me, when I look at where I put my energy, I put my energy where I see the merger of deep science, deep algorithmic science, deep model development, and domain expertise that leads you to your distribution. For me, this is not a renaissance, it's more of a naissance, right? First, because 3, 4, 5 years ago, there was zero impact of AI into creative economy, very little. But now you do. And you do it globally. And so in that sense, there's no difference between investing in the US, like we do a lot, or investing here. The difference, of course, is in the maturity. Right? So in the US, it is extremely important to find that combination of deep domain expertise, both algorithmic science, and then the domain expertise itself, the vertical. Here, it can be perhaps a little more lax. There's a company out there, called Moontech, I encourage you guys to go and see it, which doesn't have much AI today, but they're ramping into this. But what they do is they really bridge the creators with the brands, and they do it very seamlessly, right? And I think that in the US was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But here you can see these opportunities. And I think that's I guess, where the difference is.
And I wanted to ask, so you see, let's say, I don't want to jump in and talk about the future right now, leave it to the end of the session, but you see there's a lot of opportunities that can be, let's say, here in the region when it comes to deep AI. Specifically, we're seeing a boom in artificial intelligence here in the region, specifically in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia. A lot of investments are being poured into that. We saw a lot of big names like Sam Altman coming here to the regions and others as well to invest in artificial intelligence.
So you mentioned Samsung, and we're investing in AI. Yes, there is a lot of interest today in AI in the region. The quality of the engineering talent in terms of critical mass is not there yet where you have the type of opportunities that you find in the Valley, but it's going to happen. And I think everybody here, including myself, are busy trying to understand how you bring that talent and make it happen. Today, a lot of the investment here has happened at the infrastructure layer, so compute, data. It has to go into building models. There's TII in Abu Dhabi that has put together Vulkan, who's done very well. But to then take this and build solutions will take a bit of time. But I would not disregard this region just simply because there's a lot of desire to adopt early and a lot of desire to build.
And as you said, the infrastructure is already there, so building on that infrastructure should be relatively less challenging.
Yeah, well, it's all about talent, right? So you need to bring the first world-class talent that gives you the ability to take. Let me give you an example. We invested in a firm in the US called Hickstill, right? And we're talking about the creative economy here. These guys just released something called Real Magic, which is a workflow enabler for building short form and long form movies, right? So scenario building, uh, set building, character acting, cinematography, and then editing, the whole thing. This takes a lot of efforts, and the CTO, the CTO who built this firm, is a former CTO of Snap. This type of a talent is hard to find here. Right? Now, this fellow, this guy who's the company is called Hicksville, he has a team in Kazakhstan, right? So it's not like you won't find teams outside of the US, but you have to have that quality of talent, and quality of talent you have to bring it here in order for you to see these kind of companies emerging here. It will happen, and we're busy helping that happen, but it's still an exception, not a rule.
Actually, if you want to talk, you're more on the gaming side of things. If you want to talk about investing in companies that do gaming, how important are content creators and influencers in the marketing strategy of these companies when you want to assess whether to invest in a firm or not?
Yeah, it's very important, especially in the post-idea phase where user acquisition is so much harder. These days, you can't target the users anymore. Basically, every pitch where there's a consumer element or a game, there is a go-to-market strategy which is heavily reliant on creators and influencers. And the big question is, like, how do you differentiate which one makes sense and which one doesn't, which one is credible, which one isn't? Because you can't just, like, influencer marketing is pretty much table stakes. So you can't just throw a blanket statement that we're going to use influencers. You have to have a more granular plan on which influencers, which region, what kind of reach they have, will you be able to partner with them, etc. So influencers, creators are playing a huge role in the market strategy in companies that we're investing in.
Would you say it's one of the top 5 or top 3 aspects you look at when you want to invest, or do you think it's not that important?
It is very important. The first 3 things we look at is team. So then we look at the technology, the market size, and everything. But execution of your plan, whether it's product roadmap, but also more importantly, go-to-market as well. That you have so many talented people out there building great stuff. AI is just making everything much easier to develop. So the big thing is, and especially I've seen it in Finland, where it's a tiny market, distribution and having access to users is a big challenge. So it is very, very important for investing.
Thank you, Megan. So you invest also in creators directly through the holding companies. So what type of creators do you usually aim for? Which specific niches? What do you think, especially in a world where there's so many content creators, so many influencers, how do you assess the right type of content creator to invest in?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we focus typically on really vertical and niche creators who are explicitly building businesses and companies and not just media businesses. So they have to be entrepreneurial, not just wanting to be talent or celebrity. And they have to show like a real demonstration of authority and credibility in their niche. And you asked, how do we think about which areas to invest? And one of the amazing things about the internet is, these niches can look small but be sneaky huge. And so for us, it's actually less about we have to have a parenting creator and a lawn care creator and a construction creator. It's actually much more about the reason why a consumer might attach to a creator. So we actually invest more thematically. So one of the things that we like is one of the areas we like to spend a lot of time in with hobbyist categories. So where people spend a lot of time and a lot of money, almost irrationally so, or areas where there's a big information gap where the consumer may not be getting the necessary information from their quote-unquote expert in their life, whether it's a doctor or whatnot, and so they turn to the internet. I mean, I don't know how many people here know Andrew Huberman, but he's seen kind of this unbelievable rise, and I think it's largely attributed to people just have more information and are wanting more. We like to think about creators that kind of touch on taboo topics that people may not be comfortable, having those conversations with friends or family or kind of in person, and so oftentimes turn to creators. So point being is that we invest more thematically, kind of alongside changing consumer demographics and psychographics, and less about, checkboxing different categories?
There's this TikToker, I actually forgot her name, but she talks about very complex US issues in a very fun and light way.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you've seen her, but she does that kind of thing. Like she relays information in ways that are simple and fun to the audience. So this is something you look at when you want to invest in these creators.
Yeah, totally. But both in terms of, again, do they have that true authority in the space, and obviously inherent in that is their ability to communicate, whatever they're focusing on.
What about on the product side? If you're looking for content creators that are more on the selling product side, is there something specific you look at?
Yeah, when we think about bottom of funnel opportunity, I think oftentimes people default to CPG, consumer products, so food and beverage or merch or apparel. We've seen a number of creators that are actually building software or marketplace businesses that are inherently a little bit more venture-like in nature. And so we get super excited about those opportunities, and we continue to see more.
Ronit, I want to ask you the same question. What type of, let's say, patterns and investments in the creator economy do you look at, specific fields, industries?
So we don't invest in creators directly, but what we invest in is in two things, right? One, empowering people to become creators, or empowering existing creators to create faster. As short form, India is a short form, video and mobile first market. Those are the three things that you need. So how can I get people to create content and consume content more seamlessly becomes the question for us, which is where a lot of AI tools come into play. A lot of AI tools have reduced the time to audience for a lot of creators. So that is really exciting for us. The second thing that's really exciting for us is analytics. A lot of creators today, especially in India, have massive distribution because our audience is huge. Right? You have incredibly cheap data. We have the cheapest data in the world, and you have incredibly cheap mobile phones, which means that there is an incredible number of people online, but how many of them actually will convert to consumers is a big question mark for us. So deeper analytics that go through the stratification of sort of class, geography, spending power, etc., become very big tools for us. And the third thing that we have invested in, which is still, I think we're still waiting to see results on, is CPG products. India is a large CPG market. We're a very young market. It's the last 5 years that we've seen India first brands really boom and compete with international brands. And I think creators are leading the charge on that in many fronts. For example, Deepa Khosla has a brand called Indie Wild, which is a skincare and makeup brand, and it's priced very premiumly. It's priced at the same range that you would get a Rare Beauty or a Fenty Beauty. But they're doing really well. That's because Deepa has a lot of distribution and loyalty, and she has managed to convert that into sales. Now the question is, can more people do it? And that is still something that we are struggling with. Because India might have a large audience, but our spending power isn't very, very high. So in 2023, 100 million people consumed a product that was advertised by an influencer in India. That's a massive number, but that's still a fraction of what advertising leads to in India. Influencer advertising is still less than 10% of the entire marketing and advertising budget across brands in India. And we're going to see a shift in that soon, which in turn is going to build credibility for more influencers to launch their own products. It is usually a waterfall moment, and we are at the start of that waterfall. It's going to move really fast. The moment we see a validated playbook in the market, a lot of people are going to jump in. I would say there is space for venture studios, brand studios, there's space for roll-ups. I would say creators should be looking at roll-ups that they can co-brand with their own names. There is space for manufacturing, there is space for premium software experiences, premium immersive experiences. And the reality is that I do believe that creators are very, very well positioned to execute these. Because a creator builds an audience by helping them immerse into their lives, right? Why do you follow a creator? Because you relate to them. It's a parasocial relationship. Can they convert that skill into a scalable software environment is something I'm very excited about, and I'm actively looking to invest in.
Antoine, also I wanted to ask you, when we spoke about a very important point about the role of artificial intelligence in these new apps that are helping content creators, let's say, take the shorter cut towards creating content, whether it's through editing, whether it's through analytics. But don't you think with the rise of AI, it's going to put everyone on the same level to some extent? If we all have the same tools, if we're all using ChatGPT, if we're all using the same editing applications, what is the competitive edge for the creator then?
So, yeah, I mean, yesterday, Jacob Carlson was talking about how technology just democratizes power, right? We just talk about information, just talk about money, just cryptocurrencies. It's the same thing applies to content and branding. And so, yes, to a degree, what you're talking about is very powerful tools that make it possible for you to move from 0 to 1,000 much faster than was ever possible before. However, not everybody is going to go from 0 to 1,000, right? It's just not possible. The market is not there for that. So what it does is that it creates the opportunity for the best to do better, faster. And so what you do is, as an incumbent, you cannot rest on your laurels. You have to adapt faster. You have to adopt new technologies faster. One of the things that is really important if you're like an AI investor, used to be an AI company founder, but now that an AI investor, it's a very humbling job because what you learned 2 or 3 years ago no longer applies, right? And so, as a creator, you have to be in the same mindset. In 6 months, technology is going to be different. And so you have to live with it and adapt very quickly. So for me, the key to winning here is going to be how fast you are in adopting the best of breed technologies and how good you are at executing.
Actually, I want to wrap the session with you and ask you, where do you see the future of the economy heading?
I think just piggybacking on Tom's comment and your question, personality is still going to be the key characteristic for really successful creators. The proliferation of AI tools, yes, you're going to have a lot of more people who can start building a brand, but actually connecting with the people, being really the face instead of virtual face of your channel or your product, your media company. That's still going to be the key thing to me. So what AI and those tools help, they help you push more content and be more efficient, but it's still going to be the character and the personality that is going to attract the big audiences.
Thank you so much. I want to thank my panelists and the audience for tuning into this session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.